You've got to love a bit of exotica, and they don't come much more exotic than MV Agusta's Superveloce. Didn't even try and do it in an Italian accent that time. Superveloce. Welcome to Butchering Italian Pronunciation with Tim. Rob and I were invited up to sunny Bury St Edmunds. Sense the sarcasm, because autumn has definitely set in now. And even though the weather wasn't great, the bike more than made up for it. My thanks to Krazy Horse for accommodating us for the day. Hello. Alright then, let's play the Who's Louder game. I think I'm running at a loss today. Ladies and gents, good day to you. It's not the day I wanted, if I'm honest. I was hoping for maybe a little bit more sunshine, but there we go. Make do with what you got. We are, of course, on rain mode with a bike that makes about 148 brake horsepower. That clutch pull is a little bit strange. And I can't see anything out of the mirrors. Good. Come on. There we go. Sounding absolutely glorious. I like triples anyway, but this has got such a good flute to it. Compare it to the Triumphs or the Yamahas, and I think this one is the nicest sounding triple that I've sat on, and they do by and large sound good. So that is a hell of a credit to its name. Everyone's got their own taste, but I'd say it's probably the prettiest triple that I've sat on as well, and it is by far and away the quickest, ludicrously so. I think it's got super courses on it. That's the other thing that's kind of holding me back today, on top of the fact that it's greasy obviously, but it's got dry weather tyres on it, because I don't personally see that many owners taking this thing out on a wet day like today. If you ever do, you will be fine, but you're not exactly going to be going breakneck speeds, and you're not going to be taking extreme lean angles. God damn, that thing's loud. I'm quite looking forward to being sat on that actually. You have to rev it quite high to get it to pull you off. Hello. Serious question though, because I don't want to clash with you, but are you getting it in red or black?
What, that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's these.
Oh, well, oh, okay. Alright then. I was going to go for the black, I just wanted to know if it was taken. Right, let's talk triples. Why do I like 3 cylinders so much? They have all the grunty pull of a 2-cylinder and all the high revving performance of a 4 bundled into one tight little package, which means that they rarely feel like they're lacking. They can occasionally suffer from snatchy throttles, but I guess that's the trade-off of always being ready to go. And they are always ready to go. Any gear, any speed. Or at least that's the impression I got from those that I'd ridden before. I would say that if there's a spectrum running from 2 cylinders to 4 cylinders, ignoring singles for the moment because they are their own particular breed, the MV sits somewhere around a 3.5. Probably a little closer to a 4-cylinder, but you've got a little extra in reserve around the mid to low revs. I don't think I've been on a bike where I've stayed in first gear quite as long as this. It's almost like an automatic most of the time, by which I mean you never need to change gear when you're going through town. You barely need it when you hit the 40s and 50s. That's the sign I like to see. Right, first gear, all the way, have it. I mean, it's got 6 gears, what are we talking there? 4,500 revs. If you get it below about 5,000, we're talking 4,000 revs, it's a little rumbly, it complains a little bit. Saying that, it should be fairly obvious that it wants to rev higher because that clock starts at 3,000. It doesn't even show you anything below that because you really can't use it. Not a problem, because it is engineered in a way that actually if you play in higher revs, it's still silky smooth on that throttle. Obviously in rain mode I haven't checked the sportier settings. But with some bikes, when you start revving them high, they get super sensitive, hypersensitive on that throttle, and it becomes quite an inconvenience keeping them there. Whereas this thing, when you keep it dancing around in the higher revs, it's super smooth. Even little adjustments on that throttle don't start jerking it around, and my apprehension coming into this thing, because it is so finely tuned, was that it would be a bit of a nightmare to get on with for someone like me and the types of bikes that I'm used to. Actually, no. It's so happy with anything I'm giving it. It's not dancing around, it's not hunting. When you roll off, you've got just the right amount of engine braking, and then you plant it again and it responds, not super abruptly, not breakneck, but obviously quickly. But then anything under 30 miles an hour, definitely you want to be in first gear. Anything under 40 and you're probably still okay. In short, make no mistake, this is a high revving, high performance sports bike. First clue, the tachometer. The clock pretty much starts from 3,000. You're then going to climb past 10,500, where you'll find 88 Newton meters of torque, up to 13,000, where you'll reach 140 horsepower, and I you not, you'll be doing 70 miles an hour in first gear. Second, third and fourth are license killers, and if you ever get into sixth gear, then apparently you have a top speed of about 149 miles per hour waiting for you. With that kind of performance, it deserves to get its legs stretched every now and then. If you own this bike and you don't take it on a track, you are doing yourself and the bike a disservice. Just make sure you take out track insurance when you do. You don't want a squeaky bum moment on a bike that costs you about £17,000. Just saying. It's great. I mean, for most of today, I'm going to keep it in rain. I think that's for the best. I might dip into, I think it's sport and race. I can't remember what the two other options are, and then obviously a custom. I'll show you a little bit later on what you can actually do when you go into the interface in terms of changing the engine response, throttle response, that sort of stuff. It really, I mean, it's a precision machine. It really is something you can customize quite a lot. Speaking of customizations, we've got a yellow screen on there and a louder exhaust, and that's pretty much it. This is bone stock, which on other bikes means something very different. On this one, bone stock is, well, it's still very impressive. I don't know what other modifications you can put on this thing, but I don't think there's many that I would need to put on it either. Now with the one that we had, this is how they come straight out of the box. It has dual 320mm discs on the front and radial mounted 4-piston Brembos for stopping gear, a 220mm rear disc and a 2-piston caliper. To me, the rear brake didn't give much feedback. I didn't really feel connected to it, but I only used it on a handful of occasions, or a footful of occasions, because you use your feet. But the front is so good that, to be honest with you, I didn't really use the rear brake, hardly at all. Obviously, it has ABS and traction control, as well as 4 rider modes. Electronic aids are not something that MV lacks. You can go into quite specific detail on their interface, and I quite enjoyed playing with the rider modes on the day. So, while Rob's taking some photos, I'm just going to take this opportunity to show you some of the electronics, or at least wrap my head around it. So we have it all accessed, I think, through this switch right here. When it boots up, there we go. So you got 2 different settings for ABS, you've got 8 different settings for traction control, which you can change on the fly, which is useful. There we go, gas sensitivity, that's what I was looking for. So you've got gas sensitivity, normal, max torque, full power, of course, engine brake normal, engine response, fast response, RPM, limiter, hard, quick shifter, up and down. You can turn them off, obviously. So that's useful. I'm not really going to play around with that too much because I honestly don't think I need to. It is beautiful and it sounds really good. Obviously windy today, so hard to tell, but now I'm going to take this very easily, but it wouldn't be right if I borrowed this for the day and didn't at least tri-sport to see the difference. Put it this way, it's noticeable. The difference between the two is noticeable. God, these roads are horrible. This is hideous. Give me an Africa Twin for this. So, bear with me. Might as well at least try a race. I think if I was to guess the primary difference between those two, I'd probably say that it livens the throttle response up a little bit, but maybe that's just my perception. Let's stick it in sport one more time and give it a go and see if I was right. Yeah, I could be wrong, but it feels like it just curbs that engine braking off a little bit, and I would say that when it gets to race mode, the throttle is just a little bit more lively. But this is the kind of bike where even in rain mode you don't feel like it's lacking. Suspension is from Marzocchi on the front and it's fully adjustable. I've heard that the Sachs rear shock, which is again fully adjustable, does need dialing in if you're going to work the bike hard. But again, obviously on our day, I didn't really get the chance to push it. And then we come to the ergos. I'm not a sports bike rider. I'm also not a contortionist. If I was going to become a bit more of a sports bike rider, I'd probably take up yoga and invest some serious hours perfecting my crow pose. Obviously, I'm aware of how cramped sports bikes can be and just how much inner leg, lower back and wrist strength you need just to plod through town. But I have to say, the Superveloce isn't bad. It's got a fair amount of room and the overall position is pretty well aligned. I'm not saying I want to go touring on it. I'm not saying I want to commute on it. But I am saying that it's bearable when you are riding around and you get that inevitable bit of boring road. You know, the funny thing is, this isn't an uncomfortable place to sit. And this is a pedigree sports bike. I'm not saying I could live with it just pop into the shops, but honestly, I've sat on more uncomfortable machines. There's not a lot you can tuck behind either, to be honest with you. You can't really get yourself under that screen much. You'd have your elbows past your knees. But I guess that's probably fairly common for this kind of bike. It's light enough, good power to weight ratio, as you would assume. It's about 173 kilograms, I think. There we go, 173 kilograms dry. It does feel like it's got a weight to it, especially when you're taking it off the side stand. I think maybe it's holding its weight higher in the frame. Wheelbase is short at 1,380 millimeters and the headstock is tight with about 99 millimeters of trail. Handling is on the neutral to positive side. It requires very little force from you to get it to change direction. It's nice. When you get a pace on, you can start being real free and easy with the bars, which obviously helps with the riding position, helps with the comfort. So it's not just the fact the engine wants to sit up there at 110. Your body sort of does as well, because having the extra wind rush helps prop you up a little bit. Despite it being sportier, I feel like I've got a decent amount of leg room. That's probably because of the seat height being 830 or thereabouts. It's only so far down you can put the pegs before it starts impacting on its lean angle anyway, so I'm sure that's quite a precise art. Oh, there's the noise. That's nice. I wonder what speed you have to do in second gear to get up to performance. That's ridiculous. There's nothing this bike is missing, although I guess these parts are fairly standard for the class in which it plays. But there is something unquantifiable there. When you put it all together with that engine, the Superveloce really is far greater than the sum of its parts. New, these are coming in around £17,500, I believe, or just over that. So it's about 3,000 more than the bike it's modelled on, the F3 800, and probably about 2,000 more than some of its competition. Ultimately, it comes down to its USP, which in the MV's case are stunning looks and a very characterful engine. If that carries weight with you, then it doesn't matter how much more expensive it is, it offers something that you can't get elsewhere. And I'd probably stick that aftermarket exhaust on it as well, because it sounds like a howling banshee. It's beautiful. It's got such a nice kind of trumpet to it. What did I hear? That it sounds like it's swallowed shards of glass. In a good way though, in a nice way. Oh, what's that I can hear? Over the horizon. To be honest, with that bike, that could mean that he's either 2 miles away or 30 seconds away. And actually both of those things are the same as well. Well, it sounded like you were having fun.
Oh mate, very good, isn't it?
Thanks for watching. If you're new, subscribe, comment if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ra.